Hi, my name's Adam. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about downsizing your house in retirement or getting up to retirement. And a lot of you have this conversation with us. At some point in retirement, you're going to downsize the house. And there's typically two reasons for that. A, the house you have is just too big. You don't want to deal with it. You want more of a turnkey solution to head down south. Number two is you need the equity out of it. A lot of you have a lot of equity in your home and you're going to rely on that for retirement planning, which is also very important. But I want to give you 4 tips and kind of strategies as you roll out downsizing your home in retirement. There's things that we see people do wrong all the time. So I want to give you these 4 tips to make sure that you don't make these mistakes. The first thing you want to look at is your cash flow and income plan in retirement. So if you plan to downsize your home or sell your home at some point down the road in retirement, you have to understand that that's going to be a big cash injection into your plan. So that might be if you sell before 70, maybe it's into your RSP to take advantage of some tax stuff, but it's probably going to be into maybe your tax-free savings and a non-registered account or a joint non-registered account. Regardless of where that money goes, it's a big cash injection and it's going to be a big source for your income going forward. So what you need to make sure you do from now until the point when you sell your house is what does that income look like? And whatever you do for those years has to really work together with getting that lump sum of money later on in retirement. So you have to make sure, like injecting, hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially into your retirement plan in your 70s, maybe in your 80s, there's planning that needs to be done leading up to that as well. It makes a big difference when we, inject a bunch of cash into your plan later in life. It means that we can probably spend more. There's a bit of more tax planning to do earlier. So if you haven't kind of thought about that process, but you've thought about downsizing, make sure to get a plan in place so that you know what that downsize looks like and what the tax strategy is leading up to the downsize. The second, and this is more of a mistake that we see people make, is they downsize to the country, right? They want to get out of the busy, downtown city center in BC here to the Okanagan. And I talked about this on a previous video where we talked about healthcare. We had a client retire to Oliver, which is a small little town in the Okanagan here. And the problem is there's no real healthcare. There's a little clinic there, but there's no hospital. There's not a lot of good healthcare. So the problem there is every time they had to go to the hospital or get healthcare needs, above the basics, they had to drive over an hour to get to Penticton. And so they ended up relocating to Penticton because they just, the healthcare issue was just too much for them. As you look to downsize, if you're looking to downsize and kind of get out of the busyness, make sure that you're not moving away from healthcare, loved ones. The people that are really going to take care of you. Again, a lot of these rural areas won't have in-home healthcare. So if you want to stay in your home and have someone come to you, make sure you move into an area that offers that. That's some of the research you need to do before you downsize your house. Don't just move to the country and expect people to come to you and take care of you. That may not be an option, and it may mean that you have to move twice in retirement, which is probably not ideal for most of you. When you need healthcare costs and more support and that kind of stuff, it's typically in your 80s. Trust me, you probably don't want to be moving or downsizing in your 80s, again, to a new city as well, because you'd be moving from where you are, back to a city or some sort of city that has more healthcare options. So when you look to downsize, just understand where you're moving and is it a good long-term plan for you. The third thing you need to look at as you look to downsize that house in retirement is a lot of you are moving from a house or a single detached home to a condo or a townhouse. A lot of you are moving into condos, and that makes sense. You want a turnkey solution. If you head away for a month or 6 months or whatever it is, you can just lock up your place, walk away. It's easy. But a lot of you that live in a house aren't used to strata costs, assessments, some of these things that can really take a toll, especially in retirement when you're on more of a fixed income. So if you're moving into a condo in retirement, whether it's early in retirement, later, it doesn't matter. Be prepared for strata costs. And again, strata costs have started to escalate exponentially. The other thing within kind of a strata in a condo development is the assessments. And you need new roof, you need new siding, leaky condo, whatever it is. Some of these assessments can cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your pocket. So, early in retirement, you move to a new condo and they come to you and say, look, we need to put a new roof on and we haven't really built a good slush fund within the Strata Corp. So we need $50,000 from everyone. Is that even an option for you? And if it's not, you might have to move, but your place is worth $50,000 less essentially because there's an additional cost there. So just be aware of this. These are things that people in a home aren't aware of sometimes when they move into a condo. Strata and assessments. Be very aware of that because they can be large costs when you're on a fixed income. The fourth tip I have for you, and this comes directly from clients of ours that have downsized in retirement, is make sure to downsize before the no-go phase. So I always talk about kind of the go-go the slow go, and the no-go phase. And typically the no-go is kind of 80, 85 onwards. Look to downsize before you hit that phase. You have a bit more energy, a bit more wherewithal of where you want to go. I've seen clients downsize in that no-go phase, and it hasn't worked really well. So if you're looking to downsize, consider downsizing, from retirement. It might be early in retirement, but try and downsize by about 75, 80 at the very latest. And again, this is experience from like tens to hundreds of clients that we've kind of seen downsize. Between 65 and 75 is probably the sweet spot to downsize if you're going to in retirement. Any later than that, you can kind of run into issues, right? You become stubborn with age, you become kind of locked in your ways. I would say it actually could cut years off your life. That big of a change later in life just isn't healthy for you. So if you're looking to downsize, do it a little bit earlier than maybe you expect, but 65 to 75 is probably that sweet spot. Now, the bonus tip for you is more of a don't downsize to a rental. And a lot of you, if you have to, that's fine. Look, if you have to kind of pull out all the equity of your house, live off that to kind of get through retirement, then renting a place is probably your only option. And that's fine. But ideally, don't downsize to rent. A lot of you have talked about that of, look, I can get into a rental, then I'm flexible, I'm not tied down to anything. The problem with the rental, and we've seen it firsthand with clients, is that you lose control. And as you get on with age, the last thing you want to lose control of is where you live, that comfort, that peace of mind, the comforts of life. And that becomes very important later in life. So if you can avoid downsizing to a rental unit, I would strongly, strongly recommend it. So do your best to downsize to something that you can afford and live on, but hopefully you can avoid the rental market. Again, some of you have to go that route, but again, break down, like sometimes rental is actually more expensive than buying maybe a condo or something like that out of town. So break down the numbers for yourself, but if you have to go to a rental, that's fine. Try and find something that is hopefully long-term. Again, when you're in a rental suite, you can get kicked out of it for essentially no reason. I mean, BC, where I live, it has probably the strongest rental laws in Canada. Very hard to get rid of a tenant, but you can say family members moving in there. We got to reno it. There are ways to get tenants out. I don't want you getting kind of kicked out or pushed out of your rental suite in your 80s, maybe in your 90s, and you have to find a new home. It's just not an ideal situation. So do everything you can to avoid that. Again, there's gonna be some of you that can't avoid that. That's fine. But if you can, do your best to avoid it. So if you're planning to downsize your home in retirement, hopefully these tips help you out. Again, there's a lot to it. A lot goes into the planning advice around it and the kind of the tax planning, but hopefully these 4 tips kind of help walk you into that downsizing experience. Again, a lot of you are doing it, especially if you live in the city, you want to get out of the city. Again, make sure you don't go too rural because that could cause some issues for healthcare. But again, thank you for joining us in this video, and we'll see you in the next one.